Different of a morning. Hey folks, my name is Jeff DeVerter and welcome back to another episode. We're doing things a little different around here. New camera, new angle. We're going to talk about this desk a little bit as well today. So if you've been interested, what does it take to run a live stream? Today's your day. Well, hey folks, my name is Jeff DeVerter and welcome back to another episode of Cloud Talk Live. Well, wasn't that fun? All this fancy stuff going on, cameras and microphones and multiple things. It's great fun. So yeah, we are going to talk a little bit today about everything that goes on here at the desk. And why, you might ask, why today are we taking things a little bit differently? Well, I'm going to tell you because, well, I had a guest not be able to make it at last minute, but boy, have I got some great content for you. Don't think you're getting bottom of the barrel. What you're going to get today is some really interesting stuff. We're going to talk about all kinds of things as it relates to what is going on in the world, not only a tour of the cybersecurity world here, or the command center, we might call it here. I've got Daniel in the background helping me out, but also what's going on in the world. So even though things are a little different, you know, the same rules still apply. Introduce yourselves. We'd love to know who you are and where you are in the world. And at no time more than this episode would I love to hear from you and know, as we get into this, I'd love to hear your input, your feedback. What do you have going on in your world? What do you think about some of these news articles that are going to come up here shortly? And if you're a little shy about commenting in the little comment section down below, well, I'd encourage you to send an email over to solve@rackspace.com. And Michael from Houston, first in the house, at least the first to admit that he is here. Michael, glad that you are here. Welcome. All right, Gert from Dallas. You guys may remember Gert. He's been actually on the show when he was a racker. But once a racker, always a racker. Joined from by India. Welcome, Priyanka. Glad that you are here as well. And let's bring up this here side-by-side picture while we look at some of these comments coming through. Guys, this is the home office. Now, if you're a racker, you've been at Rackspace, well, you'll know that, in fact, let's just bring this up full screen. You'll know that there is this fancy rolly desk that we assembled over there. Well, all of that is based on this design right here. That's right. All of this stuff was Gen 1. There is a Gen 2, and then Generation 3 was what we put into the Rackspace Castle. So, Julian, glad that you are here. Welcome, Rebecca, MBA Rebecca, and Kim from San Antonio. Welcome. Glad that you are here. All right, so well, let's bring this side by side up again real quick. Again, we are going to get into some of the news and what's going on here in the world, but I thought that we would start with this little desk tour. So, you know, there's a lot that's happening. First of all, there's everything inside of the red boundary. You can think of me controlling all of that. Everything at this desk is being controlled by that. Now, what scene we're looking at, whether we're seeing the views, why that's happening by Daniel. Now, you don't get to see Daniel very often, and he didn't know I was going to do this, but Daniel, pop up on screen for just a second. I talk about producer Daniel all the time, and you've never gotten to meet him. But here he comes. He's freaking out right now. Daniel, welcome to the program.
Hi, Jeff. Good to see everybody out here in the comments. Thanks for joining us today.
You guys would not believe how important Daniel is to this program. So I just wanted to bring him up and say thank you, Daniel, from Southern New Jersey.
That's right. Thanks for the big surprise.
That's right. I know you're gonna send me hate mail now, but I'll take it. All right, Yasser, we're glad that you are here. Amit from India as well. Glad that you are here as well. Let's talk real quick about some of the gear that makes this stuff happen. First of all, you may see, if you were an observant person, my left hand over here on the Stream Deck, this really is the brains of it all. Very configurable device, a bunch of little buttons that all are little displays. I set little macros that control those things, and that's ultimately controlling primarily this switching device that's over here. All the video inputs go there, and then from there, that feeds into the computer. And instead of having to try to keep up with all of these buttons, you can't see them all, but there's a whole lot of buttons and they're very confusing and they're very small. So in an effort to not screw this up, I make these little simple macros and they go into the Stream Deck. And that's how I control all these things. Of course, there's lighting. Lighting's important. There's camera back behind that. Here, look at this for a second. Bring this up. So you see this big jobber right there. That's a relatively new addition to the program. And it is a little teleprompter deal, which is really just an angled piece of glass with a camera behind it, which is fun. And that allows me, especially in Zoom meetings or when I have a guest on this program, to look directly at that camera. And all I'm looking at is a mirror of what is on, where is it? Of what is on my laptop screen. You can see that right here. That's just effectively put up there. And then that allows me to look directly at the content. I can see the comments that are there, albeit small. And it looks like I'm looking right at you, doesn't it? Well, I'm looking at my screen. But I'm glad that you're here. All right, folks. Well, that's all of that. So let's see who else is here. Austin is here. Welcome. I'm so glad. Pete is here from New Jersey. Daniel, you've got a friend in New Jersey. Isn't that exciting? And Elvira is here as well. Thank you for the lighting comment. Lighting is one of the more important things. In fact, I think I would put it above the quality of your camera and lens. Now, of course, I've spent way too much on my camera and lens, but that's okay. But if you have bad lighting, it'll destroy your camera in how it looks. But if you have great lighting, it can make a bad camera look even better. So these are some pretty simple lights, little panels that I got probably 40 or 50 bucks a piece over on Amazon. And all of this, of course, on a deck. Love having desk here. I love having the monitors. Here it comes. Off the desk. It's sort of hard to tell, but there's one primary stand right here. You see its post, and everything builds off of that. Nothing on the computer or the monitors or the camera actually touch the desk. So that's it. That's your geeky little tour. We'll have a more in-depth on one of these in a future episode on how we pull these things together. It is somewhat interesting. I have to do it every week. Get to do it every week. But there's a lot of tech that makes it happen as well. One last piece that I didn't show you, and you really can't see it. Look at that. So over here, Rodecaster Pro. This is the second version of that, and that's how we handle all of the audio. It's how I play music. When it
Works, isn't it? Oh, because it's on the wrong set.
It also does fancy voice things, so we didn't want that. Look, music. So that's how all that gets triggered as well. All right. Welcome to the background tour. That's everything we've got there. But now I want to get into the topic of the day, the technology topic, and I'm super interested in having you engage in this part of the conversation. So feel free to join in. Use the comments down below. We're going to talk about two primary topics today. But before I do that, I'm going to answer David's question. David says, is this a dedicated streaming rig? This is my day-to-day driver. This is what I use to do my job. Now, it was built primarily to be able to do video recording, audio recording. I do podcasts from here as well. Note the fancy mic. And also then for the streaming stuff as well. So it's overkill, one might say, for the day-to-day Zoom and Teams calls, though it does look fantastic. But it's really primarily meant to be able to drive these types of things. So it's a streaming rig that I downscale to use for other things. I do have another residence where there's another version of this, which really is super close in design. Maybe we'll do one from there next week. And but then the one at the castle is it's kind of the gold standard. It's pretty sweet, but we're moving. So there's that. There's your answer, David Garcia, wherever in the world you are. I didn't see that part. All right, let's get into the news. Topics for the day: AI, artificial intelligence. Who isn't talking about artificial intelligence these days? As well as cybersecurity and how those two things join together. So artificial intelligence is one of those topics that is on everyone's lips these days. Now, before 2023, most people, when speaking about artificial intelligence, were talking about it usually in the context of a movie script. That's right. So it was mostly the things of Terminator and other movies or HAL. I mean, way back into that's a long time ago. That's late 70s and then into the 80s. So AI has not only been a part of our collective consciousness as it relates to movies, but it's actually it made its way into there because even from the very beginning of computers, when those first ENIACs started to show up back in the 50s, even before that, artificial intelligence was a concept. You found it in papers, you found it written down because there was no computer or tablet, and discussed. Now, once computers started to show up, it really started to spur the imagination, spur the thoughts of the art of the possible, and people would start to experiment with it. Unfortunately, they were bound by a couple of primary limitations. Computing speed, for one, and the other primary one was the ability, it had to do with data, and that was the ability to access data, and then the ability to store large volumes of data. And the reason I say access data is because there really weren't many applications that were running in a computing-centric environment, and so consequently, there wasn't a lot of digitized data for which these artificial intelligence models to build from. And would love to see links on how to build the set. I have all that in my own notebooks, but I will share that with you. We'll write an article, Daniel, how to build a streaming rig. How about that? That'll be a good one for our Solve program. In fact, let's pitch that. If you're interested in learning more about any of the things we talk about, go over to rackspace.com/solve. When you do, there's all sorts of great information over there. And it's free, and we won't pester you with pop-ups. So, other than the cookies thing, but that's a government thing that makes us do that. All right, let's get back to AI. So, now, AI is the thing. It's in the 50s. We know about it, but we have limited computing power and we have limited access and the ability to store data. Now, time goes on. Computers start to get used more and more. The mainframe era comes along. PCs, client-server computing comes along as well, but we're still limited primarily to the access to large amounts of computing, as well as the access to and the storage of large amounts of data. Now, there are data environments that are starting to build up, but by and large, they're not connected. They're very disparate. In fact, when I started at Rackspace in 2008, I was an architect before that, not a building architect. That'd be really cool. Now I start to sound like George Costanza. And but a technology architect working at a large financial services firm around collaboration and search and all this sort of fancy stuff. And then ultimately, this data was still very much in silos. Now, all of this information, all of this history, and we're going to get to some of this in a minute, but all of this history is found in this great research that we did. It's all found over at rackspace.com/solve. We do these quarterly research projects where we go out and talk to over 1,400 IT decision makers in 10 different countries. So pretty disparate. And that white paper was released, I think earlier last week. But I know it is available now, and it is one of the few things I think I'm going to ask. If you want the full white paper, you might have to give me an email, but I won't pester you too much. But we get to this point where AI, it's get into the teens. So now you got Amazon, Azure, Google shows up. They've got some capabilities, but they're not advertising it huge. But people are building capabilities behind the scenes that's powering all of the stuff that we do. Thank you, Kevin. And I appreciate the hand clap. But it's powering all the things we do, even though you don't see it. It's filtering spam out of our inboxes. It is helping to block unwanted traffic and look for denial of service attacks at the network layer. Google is using it in its 8+ billion a day user services to be able to enable those things. It's the only way that companies at this scale can scale to be able to serve that many customers. But still, AI to the rank and file human is still something that we find in comic books and in movies. Comic books. Who reads comic? Oh, there, my son still does. But that you find in those areas until we wake up on January 1st and the world can magically spell ChatGPT. And ChatGPT shows up and gives us a reason why we should think about AI. Because now we can ask questions of it and it can give us answers. And now the world is abuzz with all of this stuff. So, good morning, Kevin Carter. So let's go ahead and take a look at what is happening inside of AI. I just did a search on some news articles, and we're going to poke through some of those right now. Check this out. I'm going to push a button. Oh, now you can see my desktop. So Amazon invests up to $4 billion in a company called Anthropic. Now, what does Anthropic do? Well, I'll tell you this. They are an AI-centric company. Oh, watch, I can show all three, I think. No, I can't. AI-centric company that had been using lots of different server environments to do the things that they do. And but this $4 billion investment did several things. Of course, it gave them a ton of money to be able to dig their research in even deeper. But one thing that it did is it took that use case and it helped them to scale in very specifically in and around utilizing just Amazon as their provider. That's not the point of the matter. Is AI is not only driving innovation that's helping businesses be better, but it's also that other thing that is now helping customers. Let's get the next article up. That it's now helping companies like Amazon to draw companies in and have them use their environment specifically. All right, still sort of heady to Fox Business for just a second and take a look at this little article. Mattel to introduce AI generated or integrated, Pictionary. Can you believe it? Pictionary now is now AI capable, or will be when they release this thing. But look at that. So now you've got AI who's not only help the mobile device helping to drive what the prompts are for your Pictionary environment, but also helping to grade how well you are doing. This is the brave new world that we live in. AI is in everything. Question for you. How are you utilizing AI in your day-to-day business? Are you playing Pictionary with it? Who knows what you're doing? So go ahead and would love to see the links. All right, I'll pop them over to Daniel. Daniel will put them in the chat. But how are you using AI in your personal life? You may be using it to help with your family. You may be using it to help you do your job better. And maybe your company knows and maybe your company doesn't. I would be interested to know. Welcome, Benjamin. Belgium. Sounds just like Benjamin, but it's not. Belgium. Glad to be here, Belgium. All right, so let me, first of all, give some links to Daniel. Daniel will place them in the chat. I told you Daniel is a useful person to have around here. Aren't you glad I introduced you to him? All right, next, let me give the Fox article to Daniel, and he can, oops, that's not how you do it. Drop those in there as well. All right, well, let's get into our next article, and it is one from CNBC. Oh, this one freaks me out, folks. You ready for this? So, I tell you every week that you need to be posting, you need to subscribe to the Cloud Talk podcast because you get not only the audio from these events, but you also get some fit for purpose, some audio created specifically for that. In fact, I got a great episode coming out mid to later this week. So you want to be subscribed to that. But check this out. Look what Spotify's up to. Spotify will use AI to replicate a podcaster's voice to translate them into other languages. That's right. So you could get in there and hear me speaking Spanish. I think it's Spanish and French, I think, are the first ones. They worked with a couple of key podcasters out there. I didn't get the invite, but I won't take it personally. Dax Shepard, Lex Friedman, Monica Padman, Steve Bartlett, and a few others. Bill Simmons is in there. Initially, it's Spanish, French, and German, with more to follow shortly. So not only can you go to Spotify to get your latest releases of podcasts, but you can also go to Spotify if you speak a different language. Get your English-only podcast in French, German, or Spanish right out of the gates. Hey, welcome, Egypt. Glad that you were here. Marina says you're using AI daily to help with emails and correspondences to sound more professional. I love that example. That is a killer example, and I've done it as well. I've also taken long email chains, and I have just shoved them into something and said, please summarize this, and that's been really helpful. All right, so that's what's going on in the AI world. But let's look at where AI and cybersecurity converge. So I'll push this little button over here. Again, I'm using that Stream Deck that's connected to the Blackmagic 810 Mini to change video inputs. But how generative AI is helping in cybersecurity. So the first way, if we were to go through this article, I'm going to grab this and give it to Daniel, who can share it with you. Is that it is helping to find those million different inputs that are coming in from all the different places to look for where the threat vectors could be coming from, and stuff that looks suspicious, and which is great. In fact, that's really powerful because the amount of data that's coming in, it's one of the areas where AI really is so helpful, and that's finding, as I like to say, finding a needle in a needle stack because there's so much content. The problem is only 40% of companies are doing this. That means that 60% of companies think that their human eyes or their own manual tooling is better. I don't think that's true. Now, that's an area where AI is helping in cybersecurity. This article also talks about areas where AI is, welcome Dallas, where AI is not necessarily helping, and that is where large language models are being used to train against new threat vectors in ways that the bad guys and girls, let's be equal opportunity here, that bad guys and girls are actually looking for ways to do social engineering to break into your companies. In fact, if you remember that little hack that happened just a few weeks ago out at MGM, I believe it was MGM in Las Vegas, that all happened through social engineering. Somebody found a name in LinkedIn for somebody who worked for MGM, called up the help desk, pretended they were them, and all sorts of bad things happened. All right, last I want to show, and I did talk about this. Really, we did not start this with the intent of driving you to the Solve page, but if you go over to, Daniel's going to bring the actual link up for this here in a second, but over at Rackspace.com/solve, you will find this right here, and that is our 2023 Cybersecurity Research Report. Now, this is important for a lot of different reasons. Again, you're not going to find sales content inside of here, folks. You're going to find the results of the content that we found when going out and having a conversation with over 1,400 different IT professionals in 10 different countries. Look, 1,420 to be specific. And the content of the data really is pretty darn amazing. And we've got this amazing infographic the team put together with some incredible data. 62% of respondents say that the rise of AI has increased the need for cybersecurity. Weren't we just talking about this? All this content is in there. In fact, I've got an event coming up at the end, towards the end of when is it? October 24th to be specific. And there are invites going out now for our Cybersecurity Summit. Now, the Cybersecurity Summit is intended to, we're bringing together, we've got this amazing cybersecurity advocate coming from Microsoft. They help sponsor the event. We have got Chris Hughes, who is the CEO and president of Akia Health. Also, Nikki Robinson's going to be there. She is Cybersecurity Woman of the Year, works for IBM as an architect over there. A couple of great rackers. Our own Chief Security Officer is going to be there, Karen O'Reilly Smith. You're going to absolutely want to set your clock, your alarm for 10 o'clock Central Time on October 24th. But all of this data is available now, but we're going to pack it in greater detail when we have the event. So you're going to want to check that out. All right. That's what's going on in the news, folks. I'm so glad that you were here. Daniel has posted the link. Megan, who is watching in the background, I'm sure, because she loves to watch these events, has posted the event for our Cybersecurity Summit on October 24th on LinkedIn, so you should be able to see that. I will be sharing that with my network. I will be there as the host. We'll have those 5 or 6 or 27 other people who will be there. It's going to be a killer event. Until then, October rolls around, starts next week. It's all cybersecurity all month, and it's going to be an amazing event. Cybersecurity Awareness Month here in the U.S., and we're going to spread it out to the world. Oh, thank you, Megan, for posting, or Daniel, I don't know who did it, that event. Everyone, thank you for being so chatty here with me in the comments here. Thank you so much, Dahavni J. We're looking forward to seeing you. I hope that everyone else will be there. There was a request for what is all this crap that makes this work so you can build your own workstation. I'll provide that, maybe even a whole article. Daniel and I'll get to work on that. I hope you folks have an amazing rest of your day. I have to find the right buttons here to bring out a proper close. And if you have any topics you would like to see on the show, just send us an email over at solve@rackspace.com, and we will be there. I'm going to push that button, bring this little up. And, oh, not yet. I got closing music. And you know how to do that. The closing music, it happens right over there. Right over there. Closing music. Ready for it? You want to watch the show happen in action? That's right, folks. This is the end of the show. Thanks for hanging in with us here today, and we'll see you next week on another episode of Cloud Talk Live.